So, every Indian kid has heard this legendary line at least once in their life.
Just study for one more year. After that, you will be free.
The magical promise of freedom, 1 year away, like always. But that 1 year keeps renewing like a prepaid plan you can't seem to cancel. First, it was 10th board, then 12th board, then JE or college entrance exam, then bachelor degree, then master's degree, then placements, job, finding a person who constantly fights with you. Whew. Before you know it, you're already a grandpa like Gandhiji, still waiting for freedom that's apparently just around the corner. The funniest part, it's a lie. You've seen it happen to your cousins, your neighbors, your parents, yet every generation still believes it will be different this time. But on a serious note, what if this lie was the only hope in your life? And your whole life works like this, an endless chain of just hope and dreams of achieving freedom in your mind, followed by free stress, free anxiety, and a lifetime subscription to trauma grid with absolutely no charges when you are going to achieve it? Sounds madness, right? So, with this, I welcome you all to the world of. Before we dive into the topic, let's have an overview of Hunger Games. The original book was written by Susan Collins, published in 2008. She got the idea of book when she was, you know what? I'll let her explain it.
The actual moment when I got the idea for the Hunger Games, I was lying in bed late at night one night and I was channel surfing. And I found myself going in between reality television programs and footage of the Iraq War. And these images sort of began to meld together in my mind in a very unsettling way. And that's when it sort of struck me, this idea for the games. One of the things that concerns me, and it goes back to that moment of inspiration where I'm clicking between the reality television programming and the Iraq War, is we see so many images coming at us on television, over the internet, on your BlackBerry, whatever. You see so many images that do they all begin to have a sameness to them? Are you really distinguishing between the different things that you see on different channels? Are you really distinguishing if you're flipping through quickly? And I worry more about younger people, although maybe I shouldn't. Maybe it's equal for all of us. When you flip from the game and then you flip to the war and then you're back on something else.
Wow, this exact interview made us hook into the topic and the books themselves. There are actually 5 books published till date, but in this video, we cover only first 3 books. That is the story of Katniss Everdeen. And let's get started.
Hey, bro. What the hell is Hunger Games? I don't even know what that is.
Oh, I totally forgot that you guys only know the movies by Jennifer Lawrence. Am I right? So here we have a small 10-minute video recap of first 3 Hunger Games books just for you. Before we get into the recap, we would like to mention that we will be using visuals from the Hunger Games movie series by Lionsgate Production House for better visual understanding. The screenplay for these movies was written by Susan Collins herself, but still, we will be following the story and narrating the recap based on the books, not the films. So, let's jump into the world of Hunger Games.
We start the story with Panem, a country built on the ruins of rebellion, where the capital reminds the districts every year that your lives are not your own. The Hunger Games exist not only to punish, but to display power, a ritual designed to keep people afraid of even hoping.
It was decreed that each year the various districts of Panem would offer up in tribute one young man and woman to fight to the death in a pageant of honor, courage, and sacrifice.
Katniss Everdeen. Our protagonist grows up in District 12 where she describes people starved to death in safety. She learns to hunt beyond the fence to keep her family alive, but everything changes when her sister Prim is chosen at the reaping. Katniss volunteers instead of her sister, and the crowd falls into what she later remembers as a silence that presses on me.
I volunteer as tribute.
Peter Malak, the baker's son who once tossed his bread, risking punishment for a stranger, is chosen as the male tribute. After the reaping, both of them meet their mentor, Haymitch, who tells them the first truth of the games. Survival isn't enough. You've got to make people like you. In the capital, the tributes are turned into spectacles. Cena's design give Katniss the title Girl on Fire, and Peeta uses his charm to create the lover's narrative. Katniss admits that she's not good at saying the right things, while Peeta understands the cameras instinctively. Already, the capital is shaping who they must pretend to be.
Make any sense?
Inside the arena, alliances and violence are staged as entertainment. Katniss meets Rue, whose presence is like having Prim beside her.
And the others.
They got all their supplies down by the lake.
Rue's death becomes the breaking point. The first moment Katniss realizes the game can be defied. She honors Rue with flowers, thinking they'll have to show it. Everyone will. As the games progressed with more terror and pain, it came down to Katniss and Peeta. Refusing to let the capital script the ending, she offered Peeta the nightlock berries, which are lethal to people. It was a simple gesture, but one that said, "We'll both go, or neither of us will." Final act with Peeta forces the capital to break its own rules and make them both as victors of 74th Hunger Games. Snows sees it not as romance but as a rebellion. For Snow, she becomes a threat, not a victor.
Back home, Katniss learns that uprisings have sparked across the districts. Snow visits her personally and tells her that the legacy of the berries must be contained.
Unfortunately, not everyone in the districts fell for it. I mean, you can't know this, but in several of them, people viewed your little trick with the berries as an act of defiance, not as an act of love.
But every public appearance of Katniss and Peeta during the Victor's tour only fuels the unrest. To eliminate her without creating a martyr, the capital announces the Quattuquel, which makes the victors return to the arena.
Quattuquel Games, the male and female tributes are to be reaped from the existing pool of victors.
Katniss writes the announcement, takes the world, and flings it upside down. She must go back, and Peeta chooses to go with her. In the second arena, the games are deadlier and more controlled, arranged like a clock of horrors. Katniss meets Finnick, Joanna, Pete, and Virus, victors who seem oddly protective of her. As chaos erupts and she realizes things done by the capital, she follows a single guiding thought from Haymitch.
Remember who the real enemy is.
She fires the electrified arrow into the force field, shattering the arena. Rebels from the long-hidden District 13 rescue her because Katniss has become the Mockingjay, the symbol the rebellion needs. But unfortunately, Peeta is captured. District 13 intends to use Katniss as propaganda. Coin, the president of District 13, and Plutarch shape her image, but Katniss refuses scripted lines. Instead, she insists, "I'm done being a piece in their games." The rebellion broadcasts genuine moments of grief and outrage, which inspire more hope than any speech could. The capital responds by weaponizing Peeta. After torture and hijacking, he appears on the television warning Katniss to stop. When he returns, he is no longer himself. He looks at her with hatred, whispering, "You're a mutt, a capital mutt." It is psychological warfare at its most intimate, turning love into fear. As the districts fall one by one, the rebellion reaches the capital. Katniss witnesses trap after trap, and Snow has transformed the city into a final arena. When Snow notices the rebellion is closing on him, he bombs his own people that kills children and medics. Katniss sees Prim among the victims as she was a medic. Her grief is wordless. She describes it as a world that only burns. Snow is captured, but he finally reveals the truth that the bombing was Coin's strategy to induce sympathy.
And there was no reason for me to destroy a pen full of capital children. None at all. I must concede it was a masterful move on Coin's part.
Katniss also notices Coin's proposal for a new Hunger Games with capital children shows her true nature. Just another tyrant waiting to rise.
In lieu of these barbaric executions, we hold a symbolic Hunger Games.
During Snow's scheduled execution, Katniss makes her choice. She fires at Coin instead, believing, as she once thought in the arena, the games are not over, not while we let them continue. In the aftermath, she returns to District 12, empty, traumatized, but alive. Over time, Peeta heals slowly, learning to separate real memories from what the capital planted in him. Eventually, Katniss says, I realize there's no one left to make me feel safe but him. And they come together. They build a quiet life together, not triumphant, but surviving. And with that, the story of the games finally come to an end.
Before we dive into the deeper analysis of the story, let's take a moment to understand how Susan Collins actually tells it. Because the power of the Hunger Games isn't just in the plot, it's in the way the author uses language, imagery, and perspective to pull us straight into Katniss's world. Writing style and language. Collins writes in a very simple, direct, and clear style, which perfectly matches Katniss's personality. The whole trilogy is told in first person present tense, so everything feels immediate. We experience each moment exactly as Katniss does. There's no hint about what's coming next, which keeps the tension high and the emotions raw. She also plays with sentence rhythm. During action, the lines get short and sharp. Example, run, we have to run. During emotional scenes or reflective scenes, they slow down and stretch out. Example, I cover her in flowers as if she were asleep. This creates a natural pacing that mirrors Katniss's mental state and keeps us locked into her perspective. Poetic devices and imagery. Even though the writing is straightforward, Collins uses a lot of literary devices to add depth to the world. Symbolism is everywhere. The mockingjay, the three-finger salute, Snow's roses, the nightlock berries. Each symbol grows in meaning throughout the book. She uses metaphors to express emotions indirectly. For example, District 12 is described as a place where you can starve to death in safety, which tells us everything about the hopelessness of life there. There's also a lot of irony, especially in how the capital tries to control the narrative but ends up inspiring rebellion instead. And she constantly uses contrasting imagery, the bright, excessive beauty of the capital against the bleak, grey districts, to highlight inequality. Her language isn't flowery, but every image serves a purpose. Narrative techniques and character perspective. The biggest narrative choice in the trilogy is the first-person viewpoint. We don't just see Katniss, we think with her. Her voice is blunt, practical, and often emotionally closed off, which reflects how she's learned to survive. Because we only see what she sees, the story often feels confusing or tense, and that's intentional. Collins wants us to feel the fear, uncertainty, and constant misinformation Katniss lives with. This limited perspective also helps build suspense. We discover twists at the same time Katniss does, and that keeps the stakes high. So, overall, Susan Collins isn't just telling a dystopian story, she is using language very deliberately. Simple but symbolic, direct but emotionally loaded to make us feel the weight of Katniss's world. Her writing style, her imagery, and her perspective choices all blend together to turn these Hunger Games into a powerful exploration of control, rebellion, and the human cost of war.
So, after watching all that chaos, you start to realize the Hunger Games wasn't just about people fighting to survive. It was about how the game slowly messed with everyone's mind. Not just the tributes, but the audience too. Year after year, people started treating the games like a festival, cheering, betting, and crying over some random dude's ending as if it was just another TV show. That is the real psychological twist. When humans stop seeing humans and start seeing entertainment. That is exactly why we chose this topic, to explore how manipulation, control, and media can slowly turn empathy into a spectacle. Something that honestly feels like it's happening a lot in our world today. From the first to the 75th games, everything kept evolving, the rules, the tech, the manipulations, until it wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It became a test of how much humanity was left to lose. To truly understand how the games reached that point, we highly recommend checking out the other two recent books in the series. They dive deep into the origins and evolutions of Panem's cruelty. But while our team was reading them, one thought hit us. What if things escalated way faster? What if the rebellion, the chaos, and the collapse of the system all happened right here without needing two more books? And after a lot of brainstorming, we came up with an
Gale comes rushing towards Katniss. He's heaving and seems as if he has something serious and urgent to discuss.
You need to come quickly.
What happened, Gale?
Prims. Prims.
He quickly then takes her hand and helps her get up. As soon as she hears her sister's name, she takes off towards the town. Her thoughts are flooded and tears start leaking. She crosses the barricade of District 12 and sees no one. Her steps feel heavy because she can feel that something has happened. She starts running again towards the center of the town, nearing the crowd. She steps inside the crowd, pushing people away with brutal force.
The capital hates when their people feel some sense of hope. That's the reason why Snow decided on the public execution of Katniss's family by making false accusations of treason. But hope is what makes us human. Love is what destroys us, and destiny is what shapes the future.
What do you remember of your mother's and sister's death?
Mom and Prim, they were lying on the floor and blood is pooling around them, and her blonde hair is lying on the floor, and she isn't waking up, and I tried waking her up, but she just won't wake up.
Katniss, Peeta, Haymitch, Effie, and Gale are standing on a podium in front of people from all the districts. Katniss is about to give a speech where she talks about how the capital has not just hurt people physically but mentally too.
People of Pan Am, I speak to you today not as a victor, but as someone who has lost too much to stay silent. The capital wants us to believe that surviving the Hunger Games means freedom, that living through their games makes us stronger, safer, and in control. But believe me, I've seen the truth. The capital doesn't just kill with weapons, it kills hope, it kills peace, and it kills the very part of you that thinks you are free. They took my sister and my mother. And every victor and survivor carries the weight of loss they force upon us. They create victors not to honor them, but to convince the world that someone has beaten them, that someone has survived. But surviving is not winning. Every parade and cheering crowd and every camera flash is a reminder that they still control us, that they still own a piece of our hearts, our minds, and our lives. But today, we say no more. We are not their pawns and we are not broken. Together, we can reclaim what they have tried to steal from us. The Hunger Games was never about survival. They were about control. But control ends now. Our freedom begins now. And together, we will take it back.
In the story we know, victory came at a cost too heavy to bear. Lives were lost and innocence was shattered. When the capital finally fell, it didn't just leave behind ruins, it left behind broken minds. Finnick never got to see peace. He fought until the very end, only to fall in a war that should have never been existing. And Peeta became a victim of something far worse than pain. The capital used psychological warfare, twisting his emotions, rewriting his truth until he couldn't tell love from hate. And Katniss, she survived every game, every battle, but not herself. They didn't have to kill her to destroy her. They just took everything away she loved and watched her suffer. The capital's real weapon was never the arena or its soldiers, but rather it was fear. It was the ability to break heroes from the inside until they forgot who they were fighting for. But imagine if Katniss had realized that sooner. In this alternate ending, the capital's cycle of psychological warfare ends. Finnick lives to hold his child. Peeta never loses himself to their lies. Rue gets to live the life she was robbed from. And Katniss, for once, finds peace in her own mind. This is not about revenge, it's about healing. About saving not just lives, but rather the pieces of humanity that war tried to erase. Because the capital didn't just aim to kill, it aimed to make people forget how to be free. And here, in this ending, they finally remember. And maybe that's what victory truly means.
During our research on the Hunger Games, we also found many SDGs related to the story. Oh, you don't know what SDG means? The Sustainable Development Goals, also known as SDGs, are a set of global goals created by the United Nations to promote peace, equality, and sustainable development across the world. These goals are meant to ensure societies grow in a way that empowers people rather than controls. In Panem, one of the biggest violations in SDG 4, which focuses on quality education instead of education, the capital uses propaganda. It controls what people see, hear, and learn. The Hunger Games are broadcast as entertainment, hiding their true purpose of fear and control. History is rewritten, rebellion is erased, and citizens are taught to accept violence as normal. This lack of truthful education prevents people from questioning authority. If Panem had followed SDG 4, education would have focused on critical thinking, media literacy, and honest history. People would have been able to recognize propaganda, question the capitalist narratives, and understand their rights instead of blindly consuming what was shown on the screen.
Through the Hunger Games, we witnessed how power, fear, and manipulation can twist something as primal as survival into a grand spectacle. A show where pain becomes entertainment and empathy turns into applause. It's disturbing yet familiar because, in a way, our own world sometimes isn't too far from it. As the games evolved, so did the people, learning, breaking, and rebuilding in the face of cruelty. Our alternate ending imagines that world one where healing replaces revenge and humanity finally wins over control. Because true victory isn't about destroying others or toppling rulers, it's about breaking the cycle that made the games possible in the first place. It's about reclaiming our empathy, our hope, and the peace. And so, as we close this journey through rebellion, survival, and reflection, we leave you with the words that began it all. May the odds
be ever in your favor.
Wait. Thanks for staying for 6.9 seconds after the video ended. As the editor, I feel morally obligated to say one more thing about the Hunger Games. There was also a love track in the Hunger Games books, which we couldn't cover and add in the recap due to time constraint, as if the video was short. And it involved a lot of kissing scenes, which unfortunately had to be removed due to Censor Board of India saying that kissing is not part of Indian culture. What the bro? So, to express freedom of speech, I have added a kiss compilation at the end of the video so that the Censor Board doesn't see it. Oh shit, it's already started. Music please!